Hello, 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 everyone. We are going live today for my first ever podcast episode called Get Free and Fulfilled. And today I have the pleasure and the honor to really welcoming Delia Peterson. She's not here right now, but she will join us very soon. So bear with us if there are any technical difficulties. Hopefully, there won't be. But, for the first time for everything, it's always a trial. But we are here and we are ready to get going. And it's all about creating a space where people, ideally women, can come together, learn from each other, get ideas and tips from each other about how to get on their journey to getting free and fulfilled. Now, freedom and fulfillment really means different things to different people. So, but you get to just hear from each other, hear from us, and hopefully just have some takeaways, something that you can use, actionable steps that you can use to start getting on your journey. And hi, Tony. I see you. Awesomeness to you too. Thank you for joining us. We are just waiting on Delia. She should be coming on soon. Again, barring any technical difficulties. But whatever happens, we'll just roll with it because that's what we do. Good to see you, Tony. So I was just talking about the purpose of creating this space, called Get Free and Fulfilled. And for me, I just want to start by defining what it means to me to get free and to get fulfilled, because I believe that it could mean something different to, different people. But for me, when I think of getting free and finding fulfillment, it's first about freeing myself from programming, freeing myself from everything I've been taught. I see her, there she is, and just being my true self from all the way through. And I'm just gonna stop right there because the queen I've been waiting for, she's here.
Yay!
Hi,
Hello, Queen.
love to see you.
Oh my
I'm so
gosh, I'm so excited.
thankful and happy that you just decided to join me. And
How could I say no?
well, I want to tell everyone that it was her idea. Okay. I was thinking about doing a podcast for the longest, and last Sunday I was talking to Delia about it, and she gave me this wonderful idea to just start streaming it live. I was like, huh. I slept on it, and I was like, you know what? I'm going to take your idea and I'm going to run with it. A few
Yeah.
days later, here we are. And who best to have as my first guest than you? So I thank you for being here. And just to introduce you a little bit, but you're going to do that yourself, but just let people know who you are. And I like to call her Queen D. 'Cause she's just like that bountiful queen who's just super generous, always giving, and always so helpful. And you will get to meet her, hear her story. She will share her insights, her lessons, and what she's learned and still learning, I'm sure, on her journey to just freedom and fulfillment. And she's the founder of the Written Podcast Agency, and she will tell you more about it. I'm just going to say that, and you'll hear it from the horse's mouth. So, without further ado, I welcome you, Queen Delia, and I just want
Oh
you
my
to
gosh.
start with letting us know about your cultural background, where you come from, where you grew up.
Absolutely. First off, Queen, I'm so happy to be here with you. Um, oh yeah, okay. So cultural background, it's complicated. It's like a relationship. My mother's from Puerto Rico, which makes me half Puerto Rican. My father is American, he's black. And my roots run deep into like down south, Monroe, Georgia, from my dad's side. And we're over in the islands on my mom's side. So culturally, I think I get the best of both worlds. I love who I am. I love my dark skin. I embrace my natural hair. It took me years to get there, but I started embracing me more and more slowly over time, right? We start to embrace ourselves and it's beautiful. And I'm a girl from Philly. So I'm a city girl up north, not your hurricane girl, not your out in the west with fires girl. Tornado Valley will never see me. Don't worry about it. I won't be coming to your area. I'll take over Vegas though.
Oh, I hear about the Vegas. Yes.
Yes.
Keep going.
Um, so culturally, like that's who I am. That's where I'm from. As far as what I do, I have the written podcast agency, which I recently founded this year, and I'm a copywriter for Impact Theory. I write for all five of their shows. It is like my dream job. It is like the best thing in the world to do. I'm supportive by nature. So I think being able to play behind the scenes and elevate other people and help them shine, whether it's the show itself or the guests that they have on their show, or it's the message that I really believe in from the show, or if it's queens like you, I just like to play that role because it gives me energy to give others energy. So that's what I do. My legacy project, which I'm going to keep speaking into existence, it is not a thing yet, but that is Elevate Your Future. That's a program that will be for high school seniors and juniors to help them with mindset, financial literacy, and how to create their future selves. So they're not in their 40s figuring this shit out.
Mhm. So let me tell me about that. What it was like to you figuring it out in your 40s, and what happened before that that made you decide, okay, it's time to figure this shit out.
Mm. COVID happened. That was a big part of it. But COVID was just like it was the icing on the cake. Maybe not just for me. I'm thinking for a lot of people, for a lot of even government systems. Like COVID's just been the icing on the cake. It's like that's the straw that broke the camel's back, like so to say. I was already depressed. I was already not in a great mental space through, failed marriage, helping elderly parents, had to care for my brother. So many things that happened over the last decade that it's just like, I could take a breath and like look back and I'm like, there was a lot of stuff that went on, but you just go through it day by day. So all of that led up to me going to Impact Theory University May of last year, which is how we came to know each other. And that was just the best decision I've ever made because it led me to finally sitting down with myself and thinking about what my narrative was, what my story was, what do I say about myself, why do I say these things about myself, how many things I say about myself that just it's not edifying, it doesn't build me up, it's tearing myself down, um, and just realizing like I'm unhappy, I'm frustrated, and I need something different. So what what are you going to do? I'm not a whiner and I'm not a complainer, and I'm damn sure not going to sit around and be a crier. So we got to figure this out. And um, I'm like that kid just sitting there in the pool, just like I'm just going to start splashing stuff and I'm going to see what happens. Maybe I'll get the right response.
I love that. Give us some specific examples of the stories that you were telling yourself before. What
Oh,
was
the
going on?
stories. Oh, I'm a single mom. I'm by myself. I'm broke. I'm struggling as a single parent. Um, I would tell myself how unhappy I was. Like, okay, this is just another day. There's nothing to look forward to. Get up, go to work, and just, you're the person who struggles and does whatever she has to help her kids out. I'm just going to try to make it whatever I can for them. Like, just bring whatever joy you got. Um, I'm the type of person, well, this was the former me. I was the type of person that would generally laugh or maybe say inappropriate things or hide behind a lot of sarcasm just because if I wasn't laughing, I think I would break down in tears. So I just literally laugh through my pain and get irritated when I hear people bitching about theirs. I'm like, could you just like suck that up, please? But I realized that was like a toxic place for me to be in, where it's like, no, it's not healthy to sit there and bitch and complain. I'm sorry for swearing, but it's not, it's not a good place to be there. But the extreme that I was at with just like suppressing everything also wasn't a healthy. That was also just as toxic. Um, so I think I needed to find like some kind of balance and encourage my kids to have that balance,
Yeah.
like we're all there. So, and having a little more compassion and grace for people when they are on the other extreme, because somebody needed to have compassion and grace with me for being too far the other way too. So,
So Tell us now what your current stories are and what was in between. How did you get from the old stories to the new stories? The between that work, what was it like? And then just first start with the new stories that you tell yourself and how you got there.
So the new stories that I tell myself now are, girl, you are fucking badass. Look at you go. Look at all the stuff
Hey,
you've done.
I love it.
Like you were sleeping on you. Like why were you sleeping so hard on you? Like what why? How did you ever go away? Like honestly, I fell in love with myself again. I was
Amen.
like, I like being around me. I'm fun as hell. And sometimes I am inappropriate, but who cares? I'm still having fun. Like I love my energy. And the stories I started telling myself now was, we're not going to play small and high for somebody else to feel comfortable in their skin because your skin is too big for theirs. Who cares? It's not my business. If you feel uncomfortable by my energy, by my excitement for the world, by my joy and my tears, whatever it is that I bring out, if you feel uncomfortable by that, you need to check with you.
Mhm.
And I'm going to continue to do what I have to for me.
Amen.
And I'll be here to help you out if you want in the end. But at the same time, you're not going to shine on my parade anymore. No, that like you're not going to rain on it. So I just started telling myself, like, look at all these times you like came through. These are all these things that you've done. You are badass. You're so freaking strong. You're so hardcore. You can do these things. Like you've always had this fire in you. Somehow it just like went to sleep for a while, and you lost that part of you between your 20s and your 40s, but it's cool. Like that's what happened. Like life happened in between, and I have no regrets for anything that happened in between. You know, the good and the bad, they're just lumps. You just take them and you're like, okay, that's how I can take that fabric of that problem and I can layer it on me, and this is how it's going to mold me to be something else. So I like that. And then I think the stories, like what came in between, like the sad version of my story in the beginning and now, the biggest thing I contribute to it is really community. And the reason I have to say community is because community was like that foundational layer that gave me a safe space and the words and the desire to want to like see that change myself, because I saw it was possible for other people, because I was being encouraged by other people and I liked the energy that I was around. So being in our accountability group, um, being part of Impact Theory University, not hearing somebody constantly complaining and moping and just bringing so much negativity into like every conversation, every interaction, like just breaking away from that. It was like if I was a seed that was finally ready to be fertilized in the soil, I
Mhm.
finally got planted in the right soil. And in that environment, I was able to just like start flourishing. And I gave myself permission to look at what my crap was. And I gave myself permission to start figuring out, well, I'm not tied to that story. Like there's no commitment here to that version of me. I can actually start being a different version of me that I think is possible and that I think is good, and it benefits humanity and it benefits my kids first and foremost.
Mhm.
So I'm not hurting anybody. I'm going to go for this. And the community in between those two versions of stories, um, and the story that's playing out, that's like to me, that's the secret sauce. Because if
Mhm.
you're by yourself, it kind of sucks. And I took pride in being a lone wolf. I took pride in just standing on my own. But there's something beautiful and so comfortable and comforting being around people that are invested in you that you can invest into.
Mm. Thank you for that. So, what would you tell the woman who's a single mom who is where you were, during COVID and who's listening to you right now and is thinking, well, I don't have a community. Where do I find that community? What would you tell them?
You're not going to find us sitting your ass down in the corner, that's for sure. You got to get up and go. You got to move. You got to splash some things around. You got to lift some rocks up. You got to get uncomfortable and show up.
Mm.
It's like, I always think to myself, we all have something amazing to bring to the world, but if you don't ever show up, the world will never miss you. And you really have to show up. When you start showing up with your discomfort, with all the stupid things that we think in our head. We're like, oh my God, she's so pretty. Look at this. Oh my God, they got their stuff together. They're going to figure me out. Like you're sitting there like, maybe if I'm just quiet, they won't even say anything. They won't notice me, but show up with that. Why would you not show up with that? I don't care how uncomfortable it is. You just gotta like, it's nothing's going to change if you don't make a difference on how you're behaving and how you're acting and how you're choosing to do different things, decisions you make. So if you're going to decide to binge on whatever season, episode, show it is that you watch for hours, that then make sure that that's what you're happy doing. But if you want to make a change, if you do want to show up, I really desperately wanted something different. I really desperately wanted to change the average of the 5 ideas that apparently I was reading I was comprised of. I wanted to change that. And when I wanted to change that, I was like, this is uncomfortable walking into this community. It's uncomfortable, but okay, we all have something in common, and I'm just going to keep showing up. And then when you hear other people talk about their vulnerabilities, you're like, oh my God, you too? It became the whole Me Too movement, but a whole different type of Me Too movement. It's a Me Too movement, though. It's like, oh my God, me too. Oh, you feel that way? Oh my God, I do the same thing. So,
Yeah.
yes, get up off your ass.
So I heard you mentioned sometimes it's almost like, oh, that's me interpreting it, but like interpreting it, but the old stories still creep up once in a while. So when
Hmm.
that happens, what do you do?
Call you up. I will call you up. I will call myself out. Honestly, lately I have, and dang, this is live. So I want you to get all the viewers in the world, but I don't want everybody to hear this. So I'm just going to quietly say this. But like, I have found so much power talking and having conversations with myself, my inner dialogue, that it's almost like it's a natural instinct to want to have conversations with yourself. But we're told that it's a crazy thing to do. So it's like, don't have conversations with yourself. But you have to have conversations with yourself. If you believe, it doesn't matter like if you're religious and Christian or if you're just leaning towards the scientific side. I think everybody commonly knows intuitively there's something inside of you that knows. Like we know things intuitively.
Yes,
I can't get to know that intuitive thing if I'm not talking to myself. If
absolutely.
I shut that voice down and I'm just constantly listening to external voices, what's in me that knows best for me, because I am a very unique individual, just like you are, then I'm missing all the benefits of stepping into like real full power for myself.
Mhm.
I'm missing all my potential because I can't trust myself. And I can't ask somebody else to trust me or listen to me or think that I'm serious if I don't even do it.
Mhm.
That's like, no, we're going to sip this Kool-Aid together because I ain't drinking if you ain't drinking. That's for sure.
I it just reminds me of those stories. I've done that too, telling myself those stories and kind of having that conversation. Does it
Hmm.
crack you up? Does it crack you up when you have those funny conversations with yourself? What comes up and you're like, where is that coming from? What the fuck is that? Do you ever get those things?
Oh, all the time. All the time. It's like every conversation, seriously, they
You're
come out. It
talking
just
to
be
yourself.
like, girl, seriously, I get on my own damn nerves. Like, that's how bad it is. You be like, I'm about to put you in a corner and put you on timeout because you need to just stop. You just need to stop. We're like so good at having like all these, we can, like, we're the most creative things alive. We can create some situations that haven't happened. It may not even be a chance of it happening, but if your inner Chi Chi can imagine it, she will convince you that that shit's about to go down and you better run.
Can you give us of an example? Can you think of one where you really had this drag down conversation? Not necessarily drag down, but a conversation with, me, myself, and I that where you
Oh,
got clarity out of.
yeah. I mean, there's so many of them, but um, even even starting between the highlights, like I had this idea, and I was like, oh, I think this could be really cool. I'm going to like talk to other ITU students, and I'm going to interview them and highlight them because I think they're really amazing people. I think we can highlight them, introduce them to the rest of the community, and we can talk about each other's like crappy stuff that happens. Like it was called Between the Highlights because I didn't care about your highlight. I'm never interested in the picture reel. I want to know what happened in between that because that's real life. And that's where people often like to hide this stuff. They're like, I don't want you to see my struggles. I don't want you to see where I fell times. No, I want to see exactly where you fell and how you got up. Don't tell me the crap. Like some real deals, right? Um, but when I thought about that, Chi Chi just like the whole vibe and the whole feeling of fear like creeps in and it's like, oh no, you're not that person. Mm-mm. What are you thinking? Like you're not even like what makes you think that this is the right thing to do? Are you crazy? Like the anxiety of doing something that just scares you, but doing it anyway, even when your hands are shaky, when your heart is pounding and you are literally internally, everything in you is screaming to jump up out the seat and physically run. Like physically, like it is so hard to hold on to the seat. You got to physically get yourself up and actually run out the door. Like that's what you want to do. But when you sit down and you're like, okay, I hear you. Before I kept falling with this default of just quiet that negative voice. But I found out if I listen to that negative voice, if I invite her to sit down at the table with me, okay, clearly you are freaked out, girl. What is going on? Like,
Yeah.
why are you so freaked out? And then
Mm-hmm.
she can say, you know what? All right, I'm really freaked out because, like, what if you fail? Okay, we
Mm-hmm.
can address that. Okay, if I fail, I think I'm going to survive. I'm not shot. I'm not stabbed. There's no internal organs, falling apart over this. Okay, but what if they find out that you're a fraud? Well, I'm always going to be authentic. Like every single thing she comes up with, I'm just going to address it. Because if negativity and those things that we say are negative, if they're so powerful, the thing that I've been thinking most about lately is if the fear is a negative thing and the anxiety is negative and all these, thoughts that go in our head, if they're all negative, and most people agree that negativity is the most powerful emotion, like one negative thing, you got to have like 20 positive things to like outdo one negative.
Mm-hmm.
But if they're so powerful, why not bring it in, sit it down at the table, address those issues, and then convert that negative energy into something that's positive that is moving you where you want to go. Help that negative turn into a positive and actually sit your butt in the seat because now you got more power to stay through it and stick through it, even when you're like, okay, we're in it, we're in it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. And what happens when it keeps coming back? You think you've dealt with the negative or you think you've dealt with something, but yet it keeps rearing its ugly head. What do you do then?
I go back to my community, I go back to relationships because by myself and left to my own, sometimes I'm not as powerful against it. And sometimes I need to have a conversation with someone like yourself or some other people that I talk to all the time. If I call Katie or Sarah or Diane or Nathan, when I can call them up, they know my journey. They know what I'm invested in. They know what I'm working towards. But when we know each other's goals and when we know what we're striving for. When you do fall a little bit weak and you do start feeling like, man, the negativity is just really powerful, someone who knows your journey can hold that mirror up to you and say, no, remember this is why you're doing this. And this is not like they can reorient you sometimes and help you get past that little hump in the road. But sometimes that hump in the road can turn into months of inactivity and months of like no progress because you stay by yourself and you think I can do it on my own. You can't do it on your own all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Like God gave us people and relationships for a reason, whether you believe in God or not. Like relationships, we're just beings.
Mm-hmm.
Use the people around you that are positive to like, get you going.
Yeah. Um, Thank you for sharing that. But what do you also tell people, maybe, or, we've been given advice to also sit with the stuff, whatever
Hmm.
that's going on. Do you have an idea of like when is the time to sit with it and when is the time to join a community or something?
Um, I think you have to know yourself. If you know yourself, you know where your breaking point is. And when you feel like you're at the point where I'm about to say the last famous two words before I do a bad decision, fuck it. Like those are the famous last two words. It's like, all right, like, those are like those are like for every situation before a bad decision. Those are like final
Really?
two words.
Yeah.
So when you get to that point, if you know that you don't, if you've exhausted your toolbox and you've used all the tools and resources you have to yourself, left to your own, to you've talked to yourself about it, you've slept on it, you've meditated on it, you've journaled about it, you've thought about it, we're on day 5 about it. Like if you know you're not moving and you've like exhausted your options or you're close to exhausting your options, you know when it's time to say, you know what, let me just have a conversation. And sometimes it's not even like having a direct conversation. Sometimes it's having a conversation with you and helping you through something you're going through that gives me clarity and helps me reorient to where I need to be. And I'm
Yeah.
like, there's something that's helpful about helping other people to get you over your problem. Because it's like you start to see it
Yeah.
externally. It's when we're internal too much. You got to go internal, but you got to come out. You got to go in and out.
Yeah. Yeah. For sure. And you mentioned just a few seconds ago knowing yourself. How
Hmm.
do you get to know yourself? Because I had not done anything to get to know myself. I heard people mention it, but I didn't quite understand what they meant by that. So, you getting to know yourself, how do you do that if you feel like you don't know anything about who you are? Where do you start?
I would say start with your tendencies. Like to me, that seems like a logical place to start. Like you know what you tend to do the most. Like, okay, this is not now, but in the past, I always was late for everything. And it was like the family joke. It was the friend group joke. It was the work joke. It was like everywhere I went, I was the common denominator. And this is a joke between people who didn't know each other. So it's like, at some point, I was like, maybe some truth to what they're saying. Maybe. Okay, just a possibility. But if that's what I tend to do, then it's a good place to start to say, okay, I know this about me. It doesn't make it good, it doesn't make it bad. I mean, for some people it makes it terrible, but I'm just like I'm real easygoing with my time. I'm not that stressed with it. Everybody else apparently is. And but since when I realized that about myself, I'm like, okay, I gotta Delia proof this situation. So I started putting out like if you told me to meet you at 11, I'm gonna definitely put it in my calendar for 10 or maybe even 10:30 because I know I tend to be late. So
Mhm.
I gotta literally psych myself into thinking I deli approved my calendar. I have to do it, and I'll still run late every single time. But at least I'm late for the earlier time I set. I'm not late for the real time, and I end up being on time.
Mm.
Ta-da! Problem solved. I'm like, yes, your girl's on time all the time. Um, but like if you look at your tendencies, like the things that you tend to do, I know we get mad about things that people say, but especially when different groups of people tend to say the same things about you, you hear a common theme between your dad's side of the family, your mom's side of the family, your coworkers, the group of girls you grew up with. Like when you hear a common theme, don't be stupid. You got to address this. Like you have to say, okay, it may hurt your feelings, but get over your feelings. Like, okay, there's something there.
Mm.
Am I happy with this? Is it something? Because if it's something you stand behind, then oh well. If they're all miserable, they're all miserable. But if it's something that you don't really stand behind, like I don't stand behind being late. Like it's not like I'm like, okay, it's important to them. It's not really that important to me. I show up when I show up. But it's having people feel like I respect their time is important to me. Having my friends and family, know that I'm responsible, that's important to me. So the issue of the time itself isn't, but I know that this is affecting relationships that are important to me. So I'm going to address this. So I think, look, if you're in that place and you're not really sure how to start learning about yourself, I think looking outwards can be
Mhm.
a big clue. And then really just when when your blood is boiled to like, it's at that point, like you are literally like steam coming off your head. And if you look in someone's direction, they're like, damn, did I kill your dog? Like when
Mhm.
it's that to that point, you really need to slow down for a moment and just think to yourself, like, what are you feeling? Why are you feeling like this?
Mhm.
Because an interesting thing I heard on an interview recently was that people usually argue over preference. And I thought about it and I was like, that's so true.
Wow.
I prefer something and you prefer something. What are we arguing about? I can't argue you down about what you prefer.
We
That
want to
doesn't
be
make
right.
sense. Yeah. So like when you realize something's like really like get driving into your side with a nerve, like maybe you want to think about that. Because
Yeah.
it shows you what's important to you and it'll help you find out what your values are. What is
Mhm.
it that you value and why do you respond the way you respond? Sometimes you can't figure out why you respond a certain way. And I think that's okay. But at least put it on your radar. Because something eventually is gonna like trigger something and say, oh, wait, I have a memory, like memories just come back out of nowhere. So
Yeah. So, what would you tell the person who, even down to the basics, doesn't know herself or himself? And when I say down to the basics, I mean, I don't even know what I like and what I don't like.
mm,
I was there once. I
hmm
could not tell you the things that I liked or I didn't like, or the what I wanted in life or did not want, who I wanted to
hmm
be or did not want to be. Just down to the core basics, what I wanted to do or did not want to do. What do you tell that person who's in that space?
try something. I the thing that like pops out to me the most, like right now my son is 16 and he's in high school. My daughter is 9 and she's in, fourth grade. They're trying to find themselves, they're trying to figure things out. The number one thing I find myself encouraging them to do is just try something. If you don't know what you like and you don't know what you don't like, it's like if you went to a buffet and it was full of foods that you've never seen or never tasted before. You can't sit there and say I like or don't like anything there. You're going to have to try something. Make a face, be like, "Oh, this is disgusting." At least now we know what you don't like. If you like just I think just being willing to try things is hard for some people. Like they don't even want to try or maybe they're saying they don't know what to try. Ask a good friend that you actually like, what are you doing? And then just whatever it is that they're doing that makes you make a face, just try it.
Yeah,
Just try it.
I
Yep.
love that. And I know you are very big on journaling.
hmm I love
So,
journaling.
how does that factor into getting to know yourself?
Um, Journaling for me, it lets me just like, how like you want to like verbally vomit on somebody when something happens, and you're just like, this poor soul doesn't deserve that. They should not have to sit through this. If that doesn't happen to anybody, it happens to me. I'll admit it. So it's like,
That poor
it's
fucking journal.
yeah, that poor journal. It's got a bunch of blank pages, and the thing that I love about it is when you're telling a story or when you're like when something happens and you're telling somebody else about what happened, whether you do it consciously or unconsciously, you will censor yourself on certain things. You will censor out certain details. There's something that you did maybe that just doesn't jive with the vibe that you need them to have about what happened. So you leave those things out. And I don't think we do it necessarily consciously, but like we're all like just the way our brains are, we're just designed to save face. We're going to always protect ourselves, protect our reputation, protect who we say we are. In a journal, there is none of that. In a journal, when you're talking to yourself, I mean, I don't know why you would lie to yourself in your journal, but like I can say the things that I think are just so horrible that I would never say to another human being, but I can at least get it out. It's like releasing poison out of my system sometimes. And then I can go back and read it if I need to.
Oh no!
So I switched
That's
to,
okay.
there you go.
I lost you there for a second. We were talking about
Sorry.
journaling.
Yeah, I was gonna say, sometimes just releasing things out, even if you don't necessarily work through it. If sometimes if you just need to get it out and get it down out of your head. I like journaling for that reason. Um, one trick I have for journaling, I like old school pen and paper. God forbid you actually write. Um, but when you start, usually you're more in control. And if you try to start off writing very neatly, but you're talking about something that's really bothering to you, I find that usually when I look back at it, it's the point where my handwriting starts getting rougher and where
Mm.
my handwriting starts getting out of control. That's the biggest pain point out of everything that I just said. That's where it's
Ooh,
like, and I can go back to that spot right there.
ooh,
And I
that's
can
a
say,
great tip.
okay, that's triggering. What is it about that trigger?
So, do you go back then, and or how often do you go back to what you write?
Me, I usually, if I've written something once, I can remember writing it for, it seems like eternity.
Mm.
But I may only go back to it one time, but
Mm.
I'll remember it and I'll think about it. If I need to ruminate on it or if I need to recall it like later down the line, I can still recall it. Um, I honestly don't reread my journals much.
Mm.
I
So,
don't reread them.
do you find that what you write sort of intuitively come to you when you need it in the moment?
Yeah, I think if you just start talking about whatever it is that you need to talk, it's like you hit a spot where if you just the thoughts just keep coming and they start flowing. Once your thoughts get to this point where it's just like it almost feels like figuratively it's literally just flowing from your head to paper
Mm.
and there's this like flow of like energy and like everything just comes out. I don't know if that's probably like that. It sounds like that might be woo woo. I'm not woo woo. Y'all woo woo, but
Ooh, okay, undercover woo.
I'm undercover woo woo because that just really sounded woo woo. But there is like this. I don't know how to really explain it. It's just like this. Maybe it's just a state of flow,
Mm.
or there's just this like it's almost like an unconscious, and the thoughts just stream like it's on files. I can't explain it. They just start to pour out. But the beginning of it is usually uptight, conscious, and BS. You got to get into it. And then once you get past a certain point, now the filters are gone. And now you're just like, I'm running. I'm going for it. Maybe typing helps for some people. I like the handwriting just because you can physically see where your emotions change.
Okay, that's great. I mean, I love handwriting too. I got back into it recently, and I absolutely love it. But for the person who's never done it, who doesn't know, they don't even know where to start or what to write about. You know, sort of ask
Hmm.
like, I don't even know what to write about. What is the question I want to answer? Do you have to answer a question? Where do you start when you decide I'm going to start a journal?
Um, one is a corny journal prompt. It's so simple, but it was a journal prompt that I really, really, really like. I'm not big on journal prompts, but it was just simply today I noticed. That was it. And it could be today I noticed the crickets were extra loud. Today I noticed that my daughter was extra happy when she woke up this morning. Or maybe it's something emotional. Today I noticed that I keep thinking about this. Or today I know, it could be anything. Today I noticed just such a broad thing.
Mhm.
Whatever comes to your mind first when you say today I noticed, just write down what you notice and then
Mhm.
just try to go into detail about what you notice. And usually when you notice one thing, as you're writing down what you noticed on the one thing, you'll think of something else that you noticed. And then you can keep going. I think it would help like just getting in the habit of journaling. Um, and I think you'll surprise yourself what you actually notice. You'll be like, why did that come up? Like that's such a weird thing to notice.
So is that something that you ask yourself every day, or is it just for someone who to get started?
I was doing that journal prompt daily for about 2.5 months. I
Mm.
haven't used that journal prompt lately. More recently, my journals have just been what's bothering me most today? What am I going to do about it? What am I focusing on? I keep it much simpler. Um, and I will write out like, okay, this seems like this could be a problem today. And I'll write out like a pre plan of options, like things I could do to try to navigate that or try to like lessen the impact of whatever it is that's going to like be a pain in the ass to deal with that day. Um, yeah. Recently, I've been doing those just more simple journaling.
And how often do you write and how long do you go for when you journal? And do you have a special time of the day when you do it?
I like to journal in the morning. There are times that I journal in the evening um, because I like to write. I will journal any time of day if the mood strikes. Whenever I find myself like really, really, really flustered and I can't think through, I will start journaling because I need to get my thoughts out of my head and they can't stay up here. They gotta go. Like I just know that staying up in here is just going to be a problem. We're going to melt down. Um, but I like to journal mostly in the morning. That's the
Mm.
time of day. I'm not big on timing myself. I will make sure that I have at least 10 minutes like free to journal. I don't think that you have to force yourself to do 30 minutes or an hour of journaling every day. I don't think you have to limit yourself to 5 minutes. I think you can just make sure you just give yourself a window of opportunity to journal. And then whatever time it takes, just let yourself go. If you end up journaling, you're like, you know what, it's been like almost 40 minutes. I got a meeting I got to go to. Then you just stop. But at
Mm.
least you've gotten something out and you've um, done some form of self care and some thinking.
Mm.
What does Tom say? Thinkitation. I think he's thinking about it differently, but to me, I think that's what journaling is kind of like thinkitation.
And do you do it every day?
I do for the most part. I mean, there might be like days on the weekends where I'm not, maybe like Saturdays. No, there might be like a day or two during the week that I don't journal.
Mm.
Like it's not religious. I don't beat myself up about things that I don't do every single day because I find myself giving myself like ass whoopings. And
Mm.
I
Yeah.
was like, I can't keep doing this.
Tell us more.
So,
Not
oh,
beating yourself up.
the 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 effectiveness I have of beating myself up is like extraordinary. Like,
Mm.
man, we could have advanced so many different ways if I put that energy into something else. But like, I think when we're like, you know how we're into like personal development and like self growth and all this stuff and growth mindset, it's so easy to get caught up in, oh, you got to do this journaling practice. You got to have this meditation practice, and you've got to have this, and you got to have that. And then you start looking into the business side and building my business. So, oh, if you're building a business every day, you got to do this, boom, 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 boom. I'm not a robot. I never have been. I don't plan on becoming one. And the stress of all of that can really make you doubt yourself. It can make you beat yourself up. You start thinking like I'm a failure. You start feeling all these kinds of ways. And I like to gravitate towards the side where Tom talks about only do and believe that which moves you forward.
Who's Tom,
I
by the
believe that these things, Tom Villieu from Impact Theory, um, the growth mindset king. That's how I describe him, the growth mindset king, king of growth mindset. But yeah, I think like when you start beating yourself up over all these things, it's just like it's ludicrous. It's like, why am I beating myself down? The things that you're supposed to be doing, you believe you're supposed to do them because you want to move forward. You want to achieve a goal. You want to get better at something. You want to be better. But if you're going to just hold yourself up and beat yourself down because you're not doing this thing, then that by itself, in of itself, is just not making progress.
Hmm.
So I've been through a lot of things that I've tried, and I've decided to just simplify my life as much as possible. I'd rather optimize for seeing actual progress than checking boxes for, did you, oh, that happened.
Oh,
um, But yeah, if you're gonna do the things like just to check boxes, like I think meditation is amazing. For a long time, I was rejecting it. I do meditate now, but it's at night. It's at night before bed, and I like breathing for meditation. But I don't know if I don't do certain things that are like almost like cultural norms, like within the self help space. I'm not going to sit there and judge myself more or think I'm less than because you're hitting all your check boxes of reading of this and this and this and that, and you're like, good on you. If you're getting something out of it, good on you. But I know a lot of people checking all those boxes that aren't doing anything or seeing any progress, and they're not happy. They're fucking miserable people, and it's like I don't want to be that.
Yes, yes, I totally agree. Thank you for that. But I want to hone in a little bit more on beating yourself up. Like, what does it look like or sound like to you when you beat yourself up? And how do you stop?
It sounds like it's like it's like it's like when the self sabotage is real good, and you're really sitting there like thinking like, who do you think you are? Like, what made you think that you had the nerve to actually put up a damn Facebook page? You had the nerve to make a web page. What are you thinking? Like, you know they're laughing at you, right? You know they're laughing at you. Like, oh no, don't even try to do this. Like the voices, the things that you can tell yourself is like, you really want to post that picture? Are you really going to post that? Are you going to show up looking like that? I can give myself such a good beating. And then it's like the other like emotional side where it's like you get off a call. It'll probably happen today. It's okay. I'm getting more comfortable with myself. But you get off a call and you're like, oh my God, did I embarrass myself? Oh my God, what were they thinking? Oh my God, did I curse too many times? Like, oh, what did I do? No, like all the regrets. Like I shamed my family name. I shamed the whole family because I showed up today. I don't know what happened. I don't know how we spiraled out of control, but this happened. Like all these things are going on, and meanwhile, I got a black eye. I got a busted. I got a fractured rib. I'm giving myself gut punches. I'm over here bringing up my childhood. Like, girl, do you remember back then?
How do you
That's
stop?
those are beat up sessions.
How do you stop it?
I the best thing I think that stops it is practicing. Like it's so stupid, but it's like you have to practice catching yourself. When you like you know how you get a new car. I got a white car, and when I went and bought that white car, every car I saw on the road was white. Every
Mm-hmm.
car. Not just any white car. It was the same white brand car I had, like the same model. I was like, did everybody always have this car? But the last car I had before this one, I was like, does everybody drive the same car? So like when you're trying to practice not beating yourself up, you give yourself the bias of noticing opportunities when you are. And as it starts to become conscious to you, you suck in the beginning. Like you catch the negative thoughts, but you don't stop them. You just hear them and you're like, mm-hmm. But something inside is like conscious, like, damn, I'm really just beating myself up.
Mm-hmm.
And eventually you start working this muscle up where you're like, you catch it and you're like, wait, stop. Like, how do I like pattern interrupt? How do I stop this thought? What do I do? Like, you start thinking about different things you can try. Do I breathe? Do I like, do some box breathing in this moment? Do I journal in this moment? Do I call a friend up? Do I maybe just go to the gym and exercise?
Mm-hmm.
There's so many different options, but I think when that's your goal is to stop beating yourself up. You start to look for the opportunities first, but then after you start to think about plans in advance. Like when this happens, this is what I'm going to do.
Yes.
When I call myself fat again, this is what I'm going to say. When
Mm-hmm.
I think about doing this, did I think this want to lead to that thought of me calling myself fat? I'm
Mm-hmm.
going to do this. I'm going to make a different decision. You have to just notice it. I think being aware is the first part, but once you're aware and the desire for the end goal is stronger than staying where you're at, then you start saying, okay, well, all right, what are some things I can try? and just try a bunch of different things. And you might say, you know what? I really like box breathing. Box breathing is that thing. And you will swear by that box breathing. Don't come over here telling me about no damn box breathing. No, I'm going to tell you that's what works for you. You got to do what works for you, and I'm going to do what works for me. But sometimes there's different things in different situations. But yeah, that's
And speaking of that, what are your favorite self-care tools that you use maybe every day or every other day, but you know that these are your go-to ones?
breathing has been one. I just said, don't come over here with that box breathing. I love box breathing. Um, breathing has been one. Stretching, um, just to move my body because I sit down in front of the computer so long. I just need to move my body. So that feels really good. Um, I like training, but I haven't been given the time and attention to that. But I love weight training. That's like my favorite form of therapy, like to
Mhm.
lift heavy weights, throw some heavy stuff around, put yourself under like the rigorous stress and strain physically is like so relieving to my mind. It's just like my favorite thing. Writing when I'm frustrated or taking a drive. I love taking rides in my car. In my car time, a lot of times I may not even have music on. Like sometimes I don't even need the music. I just want to drive with the windows down. I just want to breathe. And sometimes I have the best conversations with myself because I'm by myself in my own space. And there's something hypnotic about driving, especially at night. I can't see at night, y'all, but it's okay. I drive anyway at night because there's something hypnotic about just driving at night. I'm like, I don't need to see what the street signs say. I just know what roads I'm on.
Mm.
So I am safe, but that's my favorite like alone time. So even though I have mastered like being extroverted, I'm very introverted, so alone time for me is like the best self-care. And alone time comes with my drives in the car. It comes with gym time. Like if you're in the gym, just putting your earbuds in, I can ignore everybody and just like mentally soothe myself.
Yeah, I love that. So, one more question I have is when you're thinking about being free or getting free and fulfilled, what is the number one thing, if you can pick one thing that you finally maybe feel you finally got over, got free from, or you've come a long way?
Giving myself permission to be me. That's the thing because if you haven't noticed, I'm high energy as hell. I always have been. And yes, I'm loud. I have a big mouth. I come from a family of Puerto Ricans. We're all loud, by the way. But growing up, I've always been told, "You're too loud. You need to calm down. You're too like you need to like." And hearing those things all my life forced me into like, oh, okay, I gotta fit in. I gotta make sure that I'm quiet enough. And oh, and if I get too excited over a situation or something's like excitable to me, I'm easily excitable. If something's excitable to me and I actually slip up and I get excited, I'm like, oh shit, like there I gave myself freedom from doing that. I'm not gonna quiet myself. I mean, I'm not gonna go in church and yell, like unless appropriate time. But I'm not um I'm not gonna quiet myself and I'm not gonna hide my energy because it makes somebody else uncomfortable.
Mm.
If it doesn't vibe or flow with you, that's fine. We don't have to get along. Like there's no law that says we have to, like not all energy is like energy and not all energy is meant to be together. And that's fine. Like I'm not for everybody. Everybody's not for me. But I gave myself that freedom to stop trying to fit in a box to make everybody else comfortable.
Yes. And how does that feel?
Oh, amazing.
Yes.
It's so freeing. It's like, yes, this is what you call getting your grown woman on.
Yes. Yes. That's it's all about the freedom and the fulfillment. Now I know
Yep.
I said the last question, but I have another question.
Mhm.
Just do share with us your three core values. Like, how do you identify yourself? Picking these are my values, and everything that I do fits into one of those. Do you have that?
Yes, energy, inspiration, and encouragement. That is my three that I breathe by every day. Um, Energy because I love energy. I feed off of people's energy. I feel people's energy, and it's like all of these values are two-way streets. Um, I want to be inspired, and I like to inspire. So if we're together, like I just want to have that communicative like interaction and change exchange with you and encouragement, because I want to encourage other people, but I also need encouragement, and I am fully aware of that. Um, and that goes back to community for me. I discovered what I valued most when I realized, why is it that I'm like really enjoying this community? What is it about this community that makes me feel this way? And the times that I've been around people that I really enjoy being around, when I thought about it, it came down to energy, inspiration, and encouragement.
Awesome. I love that. Energy, inspiration, and encouragement.
Yep.
So, just to close it up, tell us about your work, what you do, your organization, and
Yeah.
what you have coming up or already out, and where can people find you?
Well, the written podcast agency.com. The written podcast agency is like, it's my baby right now. It's written content and copywriting for businesses that use podcasting for marketing.
Mm,
So I did my own research, and I realized a lot of podcasts sort of drop the ball on written content. Specifically, I'm geared more towards the personal health development, business, entrepreneurial space. And from my own research, the majority of the listeners for those podcasts are avid readers. Like, we love to read. So there should be written content to help those readers connect with you more if you're a business that has a podcast that's marketing. And also for people who have not reached your podcast yet, your written content can draw them in because you're in that space and you're in that area that they're interested in. So that's what I do for the written podcast agency. And I'm one of the co-founders of Empowered as Fuck Queens, which is going to be coming soon. We have a workshop that'll be releasing soon, coming up next month. And that's all about uplifting other women and doing what we do, empowering each other, and just saying, hey, here's my hand. If you need help, I got you, girl. If you can't do it and you need a kick in the ass, I'm here for you. That's what I
yes.
do. Everybody there is not on the same level. Some people will give you a hug like Katie. I won't. I just be like, no, let's get up and go.
Where can people find you on social
On
media?
well, on Instagram it's delia.say.what.
Mhm.
On Twitter it's just Delia 24/7, and on Facebook it's the New Podcast Standard.
And are
But
you
the website is the written podcast agency.com.
Messenger, Facebook
Mm,
Messenger now?
I have so many messages in Messenger. You might want to try another way.
Maybe
That's
miss.
almost like for like close friends and family. Like that's where I see everybody else that I talk to like every day.
Got you. Do you have any courses or anything coming up soon as well? Or
I have some things that I'm working on. I'm looking to build out some tech for podcasters that will introduce copy AI in a way that's more beneficial for podcasting specifically. I'm working on that. I don't have a date that that'll be ready yet. And I will be offering some courses, but they're also not ready yet. But there
well,
will be courses for written content.
still great. Keep us posted on that. So I
Thank
just
you.
want
Will do.
to thank you for coming on today. I loved having you and chatting it up with you. You're just so
Oh,
awesome.
thank you for having me.
Just such an inspiration. She's such a badass. And that is her story. And it's actually true. It's a fucking true story. She's a badass. Keep
So
being
are
you.
you, Aram.
I love you and thank you for coming on.
Thank you.
All
Mwah.
right. Peace
Love
out,
you.
everybody. Love you.
Bye.